This is Marta from Bleeding Through, and you're watching Metal Till Death.
Alright guys, we are here with Marta from Bleeding Through. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Okay, so you guys still on the road with Declaration?
Anti-Hero.
Anti-Hero.
This is the Anti-Hero tour promoting our most recent album, self-titled Bleeding Through.
Okay, so it's a self-titled. Okay, tell us how that album went about with the making of it.
Well, we were amped on writing it. I think, after writing Declaration, we had really stepped up our game, our writing skills, and our standards for ourselves. And I think, doing this self-titled album was kind of a challenge, to step up from an album that we were already so proud of. And but we had a new element. We had a new guitar player, Dave Nassi, with us, who is a total shredder. So that added a new element and twist to the album. We had solos and different capabilities, and it was an enjoyable album to write. I mean, we've come a long way as a band. We've been a band for 11 years now, or Bleeding Through has been a band for 11 years now, and seen a lot. And every album is a different reflection for us entirely as a band. And this last album, I think, was a pretty emotional outlet after being a band for so long, and living on the road, and the sacrifice and the struggle that you go through that people don't see, or I think this album was an outlet for all of that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that we're working on right now is a documentary on bands, it's mainly underground bands.
Yeah.
Bands like you guys who, when you first, you've had so many problems, and people that know you know all the problems you've gone through, but there's still a lot of people that think once you get signed to a label, everything's cool, you've got money, you've got a place to live, and we're trying to show that side of, hey, awesome. This is what you really go through. And we've talked to a number of different bands, and some who've been signed to labels and have seen, still to this day, have seen no penny.
Oh, so, absolutely. I think there is a huge misconception, and even with just starting bands and baby bands that think as soon as they have that label that everything's going to be cake, and it's not. It never was for Bleeding Through. I mean, we've had higher moments of success, or there's always a hype that goes along with being a newer band, and we went through that, and but it was never, nothing is ever handed to you. It really isn't. Or for the vast majority of bands, nothing is handed to you. You have to work, you have to tour, you have to leave home, you have to sacrifice, you have to live, you give up jobs, you give up friendships, you give up everything to come play in front of a few hundred kids, or more or less, depending, and you have to fucking love it, or you won't last. And that's the one thing that's, I think, kept this band going, is we can play in front of 20 people, we can play in front of thousands of people, and as long as people are there for the right reason, and are there being supportive, and aren't there because fucking Joe Schmo thinks it's cool, or then this band is justified to continue to be, no matter what the label situation, no matter what the money situation, the touring situation, no matter all of it. That's the sacrifice that we have chosen, and a lot of bands don't make it through that. A lot of bands aren't willing to sacrifice all of those things, all or any of those things.
Right. Well, yeah, we've seen in the making of this documentary, we've seen a lot of bands that we've interviewed like a couple years ago or a year or two, and they're gone. Yeah. And then we've seen the bands that have no money. Yeah. And they come here, we take care of them either with food, or some of the other people here give them a place to stay, and they're still doing it.
Yeah.
you guys have been doing this for so long, and a lot of people will ask the question sometimes, what got you into music, or what record was it got you into music? But I want to go back to like your earliest memory. Like what do you remember as like a child? What made you say, or was it like from a childhood, did you know that you wanted to play music, or was it later?
Mine is maybe more like poignant than possibly other people, because I remember very specifically we bought a piano. I was 4 years old. We bought a piano. My parents put my older sister in piano lessons, and I asked them to be in piano lessons, and that's where it started for me, I guess. You know, I asked and continued to want to take lessons for a long, long time. There's nobody else in my family that really plays music, but I think I grew up in a family of music lovers, and just, you know, we've always and continued to introduce various types of music into each other's lives. And, you know, there's music my parents introduced me to, and there's music I introduced them into, and so it's always been a music-driven family that I grew up with. So I think that had a huge influence. You know, my sister introduced me to Metallica and the Misfits and Danzig, and, you know, and then I don't know. I think I grew up with a versatile taste of music. I grew up playing classical, but liked metal and like industrial and like country, and I think that maybe if I hadn't grown up in that family, I would have maybe only liked one type of music. And I think that, you know, that, I guess for me, I just was always destined to love it.
Well, what was it specifically about the piano? Was there something that was just that just got you?
We had one, so I think that you know, knowing that it was there. And I did ballet all my life as well, up until joining Bleeding Through, and I think there was kind of a connection. You know, you do ballet to piano, and you to classical piano, and so there was they felt like they went hand in hand at the time growing up, and I still have such an appreciation for that. I think that, you know, the classical composers are totally timeless, and most of them were piano players. That's, you know, it's kind of the all-encompassing instrument. It's percussive, but it's, you know, strings, it's emotional, it's bass, it's treble, it's diverse. It kind of is the one instrument that I think has such a vast scope of capability. And so, I mean, the keyboard is an expansion of that.
Well, other than your music, is there one thing in life that really gives you, like, you know, like peace to do? Like, outside of music, is there something else that just gives you total peace?
I don't know. I think that has changed through time. I think that music has always been cathartic, and dance has been as well, and lately it's been running, and but I think that will always, I don't know, I think that'll always kind of progress. I think being physical and being physical with music is my sense of peace.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Cool. Now, you, as most people know, are one of the hottest chicks in metal alumni. Okay. How do you feel? Does that make you feel uncomfortable? Are you comfortable with that? How does that make you feel when you see your pictures plastered all over magazines and things like that?
I think that it can depend from day to day, actually. You know, some days I don't want anything to do with it, and other days I'm, you know, really appreciative, and I am always appreciative, but I have always wanted to be, you know, I've always wanted to be recognized as a musician first and foremost. And I think, you know, a lot of what people like to say about, you know, how I look, or the fact that I'm a girl, or whatever, I would rather have it be utterly secondary. Okay. And, you know, it's, yeah, it's flattering. Any girl wants to be told they're pretty,
Right,
but
right,
you know,
right.
I want to be recognized for what I do, not
Right.
what I look like or the fact that I'm a girl. So,
Okay. Well, can you think back to, since you've been doing this for this long, can you think back to a time, what's one of the things, if you can think of one, that a fan has done for you that's really, really touched you?
actually on this tour, there's been a girl that's been following the tour, riding with another one of the bands. She just turned 20. She's a young girl, but she's been coming to our shows for a long time. She's from the South, and she's just, she feels everything. She feels every moment of our show, and watching her, I cried last night watching her, because that's the whole goal. You want to touch people.
Yeah, that's awesome, because we talk about that so many times, when you can tell when somebody really gets into the music, because they're like, you can just tell by the smiles on people's faces, and that's a really, really cool thing. I'm glad you told me that.
Yeah.
What's one thing that you want your fans to know that maybe they don't know about Marta, that maybe not a secret, but is there something that they maybe think about you that is wrong? Any misconceptions, I guess.
I don't know what the misconceptions are. Do you?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I always hear good things, but
I think not only me personally, but you know, as a band, we always want fans and people to feel like we're accessible, and you know, we're not fucking rock stars. We're not better. We're those people in the audience that are feeling it just as much, and you know, we're no different. We're no better. We do this for people like that because we are those people.
Okay. All right. Well, is there anything that you would like to say? Like, is there something on your mind or something that I didn't ask you that you wanted me to ask you?
Yeah, I don't know. We covered a lot of ground.
Yeah. Well, I try to stay away from the normal, hey, how's the tour going?
Yeah.
You know, I try to stay away from that stuff.
I'll be curious to see where the music industry goes in the next 5 years.
That's a good point. That's a good one.
I think we've seen such a change in times just since I've been in the band, or, since Bleeding Through's existence. You know, there's record labels have changed, and the whole industry is entirely different. And
it's almost done, right?
It feels like that in a lot of ways. It feels kind of like, a bit of a music apocalypse for certain bands, or certain kinds of bands, or small bands, or I don't know. So I'll be curious. I'll just be curious to see what happens to, all of these bands that, even though people love them, even though, people would want to see them, even though people buy their albums or still listen to them, I'll just be curious to see who all will last in any genre.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we've seen it. I mean, we've seen bands have put out one record and it's done. Yeah. Bands we've interviewed and we think, okay, this is going to be the next great record, and they're just done because they can't handle it.
It happens. Yeah, I'll just be curious to see where. I mean, I guess I'll be curious to see where metal bands are in.
I think it's going to go back in the base. I think it's going to go back in the basements.
You think so?
Because there's so many clubs. I mean, Jaxx. Yeah, it might, because Jaxx is like one of the only remaining places around here that's still staying open. A lot of these clubs are shutting down because people won't go out and see the bands, or they're stealing the music through illegal downloading and such like that. So I think it's going to go back into the basements, which could be a great thing because that'll start the true music over.
Absolutely.
And then
I mean, strength through weakening.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see. We'll see.
Well, any last words for your fans?
I guess keep supporting us. Thank you for supporting us.
All right, cool. And is it bleedingthrough.com?
Bleedingthrough.com, or MySpace /bleedingthrough, or our Facebook as well.
All right. Check her out. Peace.